Hello. I wanted to talk about something kind of sad, but I think it's going to happen to you at some point. That sounds really ominous. Um, and it's about not necessarily if you're going away for like university or school or a new job, but probably and most likely if you move far away from your friends, you're not gonna be as good of you're not gonna be such good friends if you move away from them. Um, which sounds sad, and I think it's one of those things that everyone thinks could happen, but you're like, oh, but it's not gonna happen to me. Um, I think unless you in your entire lifetime never move out of the current house that you live in or like apartment that you live in, and your friend also doesn't ever change jobs or move out of, like, if every external factor in your life stays exactly the same for the rest of your life, then this won't happen to you. But I don't know a lot of people where that's the case. I think for most people, that's not the case because people move for all sorts of reasons. The point I'm trying to say is you're probably gonna lose your friends at some point, and that's okay, I guess. Um, I think you have to make peace with the fact that you're gonna lose your friends. So I'm making this video in the context of like university because I just graduated from university, so that's the context that I know it in. So I moved abroad for university, and my friends also, so I, away from my friends from high school, and yeah, we're just not as close. We're not as close. I think for a lot of cases, you don't necessarily have like a falling out, or you don't really get into like an argument, but it's just the I think the sheer amount of like inconvenience of trying to like maintain a friendship that is, it sounds really shitty to say, but like is not as convenient to you literally in like a proximity sense, or just in the sense that you have to like actively text people and like make plans to like, time zones, stuff like that. It makes it really hard to maintain a friendship to the same extent than if you saw them every day in high school, which I think is a kind of, you logically know that, but so I live in London right now, and I actually really like living in London. I really prefer it to where I used to live. And this sounds like a really sad video, and I feel like it looks like I'm about to cry. I'm not about to cry. I just have like a face that looks constantly on the verge of tears. But I'm fine. My red nose is not because I was crying. It was because I walked outside in the cold for 30 minutes, and it's December in London, and I just had a jumbo-sized soda. So basically, um, I just graduated. It's my third year living in London. Um, so I think uh, there's been a significant amount of time that has passed from high school that I'm beginning to, not beginning to, but like the prospect of like understanding that a lot of the friends you've had for maybe over a decade, that you've been besties with for over a decade, um, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same as when you're in high school together and you see each other every day, and you can hang out every day, and there's like just you don't have to put as much energy into maintaining it, because just by proximity's sake you're going to be seeing them, and so it makes it really easy to maintain your friends. I think a lot of people say this about like university friends as well, which I've not. I just graduated, so I can't attest to that. Where they're like, oh, a lot of friends you make in university, you see them every day, and you live with them, and you're best friends, and then you graduate and you never see them again. And I think it's kind of the same thing, except I think maybe in high school, because you're a little bit younger and you rely a little bit more on your friends, because I think at that age where you're not an adult yet, there's less in your life that you can control or that you can have like choices in. So you put a lot of emphasis on like your friendships and your relationships with your friends. I think this year was difficult for me because I thought that, like, obviously I was aware that a lot of the friends that I had in high school, you know, they have their own lives, but I think this year it kind of made me realize, oh, there's a lot of people that you can't really maintain that many. You don't really have the capacity as like one person to like maintain that many relationships to like the same degree. And it's like really shitty to say, but in my first year in, you know, like before I transferred into my school in London, I was still in like my hometown, and at that point I think I really struggled with transitioning into like a new chapter in my life. And this sounds really fucked up, but I think partially it's because I had just graduated high school at that point, and I refused to kind of separate myself from like that aspect of my life. So it made it so that it was really difficult to make new friends because I was so attached to my close friends that I was like friends with for ages, for years and years and years. I think at some point if you want to do well, if you want to, you know, develop a new life somewhere else, you kind of have to be okay with kind of the fact that a lot of your friends that you're really, really good friends with you're gonna be less close to them, because in order for you to have like the capacity to make relationships with new people in like a new place, some of them, I think, even if you try, there's only so much capacity you have to maintain everything. And I think at that point it becomes, you have to find the balance for yourself. So I think maybe ideally a lot of the friends you have just in any part of your life, a lot of these are like proximity friendships. Like I think a lot of people that you're friends with in like at work or in school, like you're only friends with them because you conveniently just happen to be with them at like 7 hours a day, and then you become friends by proximity. But then I think once you're not forced within proximity anymore and you realize like, oh, I have to like actively maintain this friendship, and you realize you don't really have anything in common, because like the one thing you had in common is kind of like no longer relevant to your life anymore. And then at that point you're almost like forced to reflect on, oh, is this something that I really have the energy to maintain all the time? I don't want to say, this is not me saying that I think proximity friendships are less valuable, because I don't think that's true. But I think some people you do just happen to have more in common with, which makes sense, and is inevitable. I don't necessarily think that means every other friendship you've made in your life is less valuable because you would never be friends with them in other circumstances. I think I was thinking about this a lot this year because so I've been living away from my friends from high school for a while, and I feel like it's kind of like a slow drop off. So like a lot of the people that you kind of don't really have that much in common with, they kind of just purge out of your immediate circle, and then you kind of like slowly trickle as you like make new friends, right? Like they kind of fill in the extra spaces, and then you kind of keep like a couple of the core ones that you're like actually really close to, and they really know a lot about you, and those are the ones that you really want to keep. And I think I did like quite a good job kind of maintaining those friendships, but I just realized basically this year I think I lost a couple like really close friends to me from high school, but it was, this was the fucked up part was that like we didn't really have a falling out, and like no one really got, like it wasn't an argument or anything, but I think at some point if one person is unwilling to kind of maintain the friendship, you really can't do so, and I think it sucks when it's people that you've been just friends with for so long, and then you think, I think partially it is both people's fault, right? So one person might not, may want to maintain it anymore, in which case it's unmaintainable. But I guess the other person also can't take for granted the fact that, because we've been friends for so long, we're going to be friends forever. I think it's a little bit like a relationship, like a relationship with like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, where you're like, you can't take for granted the fact that, you've been together for so long because they could break up with you at any point. It's kind of the same thing with friends, if you think about it, where you still have to put in a lot of effort. It's kind of like a long distance relationship. It's like a long distance relationship. You know how some people swear by the fact that they will never be in a long distance relationship because you're gonna have wandering eyes, and you're gonna want to start to see other people, and it's gonna feel like a burden. I think definitely there are differences, but I think a lot of that applies to like a friendship as well, because you're gonna have wandering eyes, as in you're gonna meet new friends, and you're gonna want to hang out with your new friends who might have more in common than you. And it becomes really difficult to kind of build a life for yourself, but also try and be so anchored to the past. I'm realizing this video is making me seem really cynical and bitter. And I don't want to be like I'm not, because I think a part of me is, but also I don't want to come off that way because it's YouTube and we're all faking it. We're all pretending to be advice gurus, right? But I'm not an advice guru. I just have an iPhone. I think I should preface that I think this video makes me seem really sad and like heartbreaking, like I lost all my friends. That's not the case. I'm really happy being in London, actually, truly, and I've met a lot of incredible people that I think I would never meet, and I think I'm mental health much better in London, and I think a lot of the people I've met now, I'm realizing I do actually have more in common with them than a lot of my friends from high school, even though it's really tricky with friends, isn't it? Or like relationships where, I think it's really tricky with like relationships where you're like, I don't know if I should value a person more because they've been in my life for much longer, and so they know me more intimately, and we have a history together, or if you should put more emphasis on people in your life now, which you might immediately have more in common with and more of the same values, but you don't know them as long. But I feel like it's unfair to say, oh, they're not as valuable because I only just met them, because that seems really stupid. But also it seems really stupid to be like, oh, well, I'm gonna fucking toss all my other friends away because they don't like the same TV shows that not TV, that's really stupid. I don't have a solution to this video. Is this like an advice video? It's not an advice video, because the advice was this is going to happen and it's going to be sad. But you'll be okay and you'll be very happy, and you'll be both very happy but also very sad. And you should not do any... Oh, the moral of this story is I think that you should not do any deep existential thinking past 9 at night, and if you should probably just go to bed. The moral of this story is that you should not let your nostalgia and your sadness for your past life inhibit you from creating and being open to opportunities that are currently presented to you, because otherwise I wouldn't have a place to live, because I live with my friends that I met in my second year at university. So, and we have like a good life. If it's possible to have like an ethical landlord, we have like kind of an ethical landlord, because she just like did not up the rent. So she's a great landlord. And my flatmates used to live in this house, and then they invited me to live in this house, and now I have a place to live. So, if you want a place to live, you need to be open to making friends. Anyway, bye.